Of government are destructive to life and liberty. Abolish them all and build a free world. This is Thinking Liberty. It's Tuesday, July 6, 2010, and we are live on thinkingliberty.net and maybe patriotradio.com. I'm Darian Warden. You can check out my website, darianwarden.com. We've got Bile over there on the controls.
Hello.
And we don't have Bosco today. Unfortunately, he broke down, and the limo that we sent to pick him up, the private Thinking Liberty limo, that broke down too. So Bosco, as well as the people who normally fan us with giant palm leaves, will not be here. But we managed to somehow get Bosco's evil twin, Roscoe.
How's it going? This is Roscoe.
All right. And then
Roscoe's a good friend, friend of the family.
So we also have some other people in the studio who might jump on a mic.
And Tennyson should be here eventually.
I'm Tennyson's evil twin, Renison.
Renison. All right. So we got a show coming up here. So what's going on today? An interactive broadcast. How can you interact with us? Check the side of thinkingliberty.net. We got Skype. We got phones. We got Twitters and emails and chat rooms and other things. Maybe. I don't know if I listed them all, but they're all there on the side of thinkingliberty.net, and we hope to hear from you. So why don't we jump into the news here? We don't have any scheduled guest interview tonight, but perhaps Roscoe will be on mic the whole time, and maybe he'll interview us and see what happens then. All right. So, what's going on in the world? Recently in Costa Rica, the government voted to allow as many as 46 United States warships and 7,000 Marines into Costa Rican waters. And this is to combat the drug trade that's going on. So,
well, that's important. We need to make sure that the filthy citizens don't get their filthy hands on filthy drugs.
Yeah, I mean, this is really an escalation in the war on drugs. It's not just figurative when they call it a war. Like, there are guns, there are people getting shot, there are paramilitary police, and now there are Marines. I'm sure there were before. But this is what we see whenever a government tries to ban something that's in such high demand. Somebody's going to try to fulfill that demand, and a lot of times the people who are able to do that, they get to the position they are by being real cutthroats. So you have a big conflict between the government and then these drug cartels, and now the government escalates things, the cartels escalate things, and you get more and more violence.
Yeah, well, you ultimately, their tactic is in an attempt to stem supply and hope that that stems demand. It does neither, ultimately, anyway, and you just raise the risks of doing business. And in effect, you just create another government, a sub-government sort of, or a black market government that ends up attempting to, well, maybe government is a bad term because they're actually trying to provide a service, even though a distorted service, a service that is warped and, you get laced drugs and impurities and these things, but ultimately they're still trying to provide a service for their customers. So government may not be exactly the best term, but you end up with this other gang, effectively, and the worse that the government gang acts, the worse that this black market gang acts, and then it just, it's almost a self-fulfilling feedback loop. It just keeps getting worse and worse. Like Mises said, when government tries to fix a problem, ultimately it leads to consequences and negative side effects that it thinks aren't its fault, and then it tries to fix those by adding more regulations, and it just, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, as far as actually fixing the problems itself, I'm not even going to give them that much credit in it. It's fairly well discussed about how some of these things are ineffective, but the policy still has to continue on, and I don't know. I think they just any kind of pretense about caring about the people that they're attempting to help, I think, is just kind of a little game.
Completely lost. Yeah. Even if they do really think that they're helping, they're not objectively in any way, shape, or form looking at the evidence. Ultimately, they're not helping people. I mean, in other nations like Portugal and I think Spain and you've got Amsterdam, where they've got somewhat decriminalized or fully decriminalized drugs. They treat it as a medical problem. They don't treat it as a criminal problem. I mean, that alone isn't optimal from a government perspective. Ideally, they would, leave people to their devices and then deal with the consequences of people infringing on the rights of others, regardless of whether or not they're on drugs. But, it's those people who treat it as a criminal problem ultimately either don't care about individuals and their safety and their well-being, or they're just oblivious. I mean, maybe that's why they call it the war on drugs. The wars are always fought regardless of what is actually good for people. It's just about saving face, whether it's like Afghanistan and Iraq today, Vietnam in the past. Because it's a war, there's a certain group of people in power that need to save face regardless of how many people are harmed.
For sure. And you mentioned medical treatment. I think it's important to remember that when we're talking about medical treatment from the state as something coercive, then we have a potential for real abuse. But if it's seen by society as a personal choice, and a personal choice that some people go wrong with, like alcoholism, any kind of drug can be taken too far. Some can be more harmful than others. But if you coerce people into treatment, against their will, just because they're using a substance like a government might, then you're really, opening up a kind of a dark place that can be gone with just medical treatment of what people consider to be undesirable behavior.
It doesn't take much digging in history to find where that has gone awry, whether that's America in the turn of the last century, or the Soviet Union, or Nazi Germany, or many other places around the world, which ended up using people for differing reasons as experiments, or just performing things that the society thought was in their best interest against their will.
Yeah, and I think his name escapes me. Is it Alvin Turing, one of the guys who invented some of the early computers? He was homosexual, so he was forced by the state to undergo chemical castration, which just sounds absolutely awful. So, there have been times in history where medical ideas have been abused to inflict things on people against their will.
Yep.
I just recently read this about lobotomies. Apparently, My level's coming through there. Apparently, it all kind of centered around giving whoever was working heavily on lobotomies early on some kind of a Nobel Prize award that actually led to the popularity of lobotomies given to people. And I guess that's the Nobel Committee, which has some kind of a government tie in there that's sort of pushing these sort of things.
Okay, we just had Anarcho Tom jumped in the chat room and already corrected something that I mentioned. The name was actually Alan Turing, and after he had the chemical castration, he committed suicide, as probably the reasonable choice for someone in that situation. So there you go. We also have in the chat room, we have the Couch Activist, one of our loyal listeners. So thanks for everyone in the chat room, and thanks for everyone out there listening.
And if you're not in the chat room and you're listening, you should go and join the chat room so you can get the full 3D experience of Thinking Liberty.
And put on your 3D glasses, too, while you're looking at the screen.
I don't know how that would help, but sure, why not?
It'll be the placebo effect. Everything will be in 3D. You'll look around, your room will be 3D.
I'm pretty sure it's already 3D.
Well, it's reality, but it's not 3D if you're not wearing the glasses.
Well, maybe if we could get like a Pavlov's dog type thing going on, like everyone, when you join the chat room, make sure you have 3D glasses on. And then when they're, as 3D TVs and 3D movie theaters come out, as more and more people, Thinking Liberty listeners are put on their 3D glasses, suddenly they're like, oh man, I really need to download last week's podcast. Or I really need to go to thinkingliberty.net and go to the chat room.
Yeah, thinkingliberty.net, the only audio broadcast that's broadcast in 3D. So we're talking about the drug war there for a little bit, and we mentioned that it is a war. I mean, there's actual people getting killed. There's military interventions. There's paramilitary police, and who's benefiting from this war?
The police state.
The police state. Yeah, I mean the people who benefit from a lot of wars. The powerful who can use this great government program to create enemies, to gain more power, get more hardware, get more contracts for the companies that support them, and it's a big game that gets people killed. So that's the drug war.
Speaking of getting people killed, also in the news. What's his name? Manning.
Bradley Manning. I think bradleymanning.com is a website you can go and get more information about this fellow. He's the guy who apparently leaked the collateral what became the collateral murder video from WikiLeaks, and there was a bunch of rumors going around that he had been held in Kuwait jail for a while under suspicion that he had been the person that had leaked it. And I guess now, again, if you go to Bradley Manning or bradleymanning.org, there are a list of his charges. Just a quick recap on this for those who don't know, the collateral murder video. If you go to, I think, collateralmurder.org or something, it was a video of U.S. military helicopters gunning down people who, most of whom were obviously unarmed, in Baghdad, I believe, somewhere in Iraq. And
I wouldn't say obviously unarmed. There were a couple guys who appeared to have weapons slung over their shoulder. It wasn't, from the video, you really couldn't tell. You could see that the two photographers had cameras. You could tell they weren't weapons, or at least if they were weapons, they were oddly shaped ones. But they weren't in an aggressive manner walking down the street. They were casually walking down the road. If they had weapons, they were flung over their shoulders down to their side. And in a war zone, there's nothing wrong with having a weapon to protect yourself. Sure. And like I said, and one of the tragedies from Western perspective, at least, was that there was two Reuters photographers. I think it was Reuters, correct? Yeah. Who were killed in that. At least one of them was with Reuters. But I think the worst part about it was when a van pulled up, and the driver of the van saw a man bleeding to death in the street. He picked up the guy and put him
tried to put him in the van, and the helicopter crew then opened fire on the van.
In a very excited manner.
Yeah, they were giggling about it too, like nice shooting.
Yeah, pick up a gun, so we can engage. They were egging on. I mean, obviously they weren't actually communicating with the people on the ground, but the way they were speaking was to egg on the individuals to try to pick up a weapon so they could be authorized to fire at them.
Yeah, and the father was killed. The 2 children were wounded. So that's what the collateral murder video is. So go on. What are the charges against Bradley for participating in gunning down children, but for leaking a video of this happening?
So there's many. If you go to bradleymanning.org, there's a quick analysis of all of them. He's got violation of lawful general regulation for copying the video to a PC, for breaking UCMJ 92, violation of lawful general regulation for copying more than 50 U.S. Department of State cables to a PC, violation of general regulation for copying PowerPoint presentations, another charge for adding unauthorized software to the computer that was connected to that secured network, for possessing the video without authorization and transmitting it, the misuse of the SpireNet PC, which was the computer he used to access the secure network. He misusing it. That's another charge. Misusing it to transmit the cables. Another one for transferring the cables. Misuse in obtaining the video in the first place, and then the same for the cables, and then for the PowerPC. So basically, it's a bunch of charges with regard to getting it in the first place, misusing the computer that he had gotten it with, and then for transmitting it. So each step he's been charged with. So it looks like what's that? A lot of charges.
Yeah, so, and the argument's brought up, well, he jeopardized national security. He leaked secret information, and this could hurt the U.S. war effort. My take on that is the U.S. war effort should be hurt. It's a war based on lies, and innocent people are getting gunned down without any consequences for the people who did it. Here's someone who's actually trying to hold individuals responsible for their actions, and he's the one who's getting punished here. I mean, people are getting killed, and they're going to continue to get killed with little or no consequence unless there are whistleblowers. And that's what WikiLeaks.org is about, and that apparently is what Bradley Manning did. And regardless of whether the charges are true or not, we support him.
Yeah, apparently if you add up all the charges in the worst-case scenarios, if he got the most severe, so we'll do number of years. I haven't counted up the monetary fines, which would look like a couple $1 million in fines, but the years in prison could be upwards of, looks like almost 70 years in prison for all this stuff. Again, that's worst case, no duplication.
That's assuming the empire lasts that long.
Yeah, well, that's a completely separate thing.
That's a different issue. So we have a good quote in the chat there. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act, and that was from George Orwell. So it's a quote I've seen before. Very, very, very timely for this. For what, for this issue here. The truth was told, and it was revolutionary. I mean, sometimes there's just no neutral in a situation. If you remain silent, you're being complicit in a crime. You're being an accessory to murder, an attempted murder. And if you speak out, then you are being charged with the crime of speaking about murder to unauthorized channels. So that's what we have.
It's rather unfortunate and unfortunately surprising that the mainstream media seems incapable of looking into this and saying, well, why was this video secured in the first place. Like I have a friend who works in the security field and one of his as a contractor, or his company is a contractor for the government, and so he's very familiar with all the regulations and whatnot. And he said that according to him, and I don't have firsthand knowledge, but he said getting things classified has a very strict there's a very strict rule set to get things classified, and the only people that have the ability to just classify things off the bat are very high up in government. So like Dick Cheney, vice president, happens to have that. That's why Dick Cheney classifying things when Bush was in office was a big deal. VP generally didn't do those kind of things, but he was one of the highest that had that authority. And so he said that generally things such as this video or whatnot cannot be classified without people explicitly going out of their way to, having known exactly what it was and then having it classified. Now, if he's correct, then someone was obviously trying to cover this up. If it's not correct, then it's sort of what we assume is going to happen anyway if there's ever something that could make the government look bad. But regardless, the fact that the mainstream media has not even made a peep regarding why is it that this was classified, when clearly it showed that 2 civilians, reporters no less, were killed by a giggly gang of helicopter, pilots and gunners, is just phenomenal. It's just amazing that no one has really brought that up to any. Because I was watching a video today, I don't know if it was CNN or whatnot, but the guy that they had on was completely distorting what was going on. He said that this guy hacked into the system, and which is totally not true. Manning had permission. I mean,
and if he did, good for him.
Well, yeah, if he did, but he didn't. So not only are they ignoring the fact of the horrors that this video shows, and questioning why it was classified in the first place, but they're distorting what occurred. He didn't hack into anything. He had top secret clearance. So he had. And they keep bringing up his age as if a 22-year-old couldn't get security clearance. It's common. If you're in the military and that's your field, you get security clearance. I mean, if you work for the NSA, you have security clearance. You could be, doing some random thing completely unrelated to security, but because of that field, you have security clearance, which would mean you could have access to this data. And that maybe not authorized, but physically you have access to it. So it was a breakdown in the mechanism. It wasn't a breakdown physically from a software perspective or a hardware perspective.
Well, I think in popular media a lot of times any computer offense is called hacking. So I think that might be
those
part
people
of
are stupid and ignorant, and as a computer dork, it makes me angry.
All right. Well, there's that perspective. Roscoe, what do you want to weigh in on this here?
Well, I mean, there are sort of terms that he's kind of agreed to operate under when he joined the military, so it's sort of kind of a gray area. Morally, from that stance, yes, it's kind of obvious to me, that you shouldn't really come down on this guy, the way the government is and stuff. But I guess it's sort of a gray area. You did kind of agree to work for murderers,
My thought is that if you agree to work for an illegitimate organization, then the right thing to do is to,
undermine
it, or just do something to kind of either divorce yourself from involvement in it, or make some kind of restitution, or just do something in the situation that you have put yourself in to kind of to make things better. So I don't see a problem with deceiving a deceptive organization.
Oh no, yeah. I mean,
so.
I fully support his actions and everything, but they kind of come with a price, and maybe he may or may not be prepared to pay for this, the way he is right now. But that's pretty much what's going on.
I mean, when you work for the devil, you can't be surprised when you get it in the rear. It's not dissimilar from Julian Heiklin. Julian knows he's going in the belly of the beast, and so while of course we condemn what the government agents do to him, there's a certain line where, he's voluntarily going into the situation knowing full well that it's a shitstorm that's going to come up. So, I respect him for doing it, and I condemn what is being done to him, but I can only feel so much sympathy in that, like, he's doing it to be a martyr. So the martyr needs, I can't feel sympathy for him being the martyr. I mean, in this case, I feel more sympathy for Manning because he's just stupid. He went and spoke about what he was doing to a guy who's known
I think you have to look at the
have-
incredible pressure he probably felt himself under. Like, he probably thought he found a kindred soul who he could share some of
right,
this.
and he was stupid. He was stupid, one, to talk, and two, to talk to that particular person. That particular person is known to be not trustworthy and have all kinds of issues. So he should have done his research before speaking. Ideally, he shouldn't have spoke at all because he got himself into this situation. Unfortunately, human beings have you feel the need to reach out to people when you have this kind of information, maybe to get recognized or just to, get something off your chest. He just chose really poorly in that respect.
Okay, so that chat room's hopping there. Bosco's in there, and in addition to allegations of bile-eating live animals, we have some condemnation of the mainstream media. And, well, aren't the media just giving the American people what they want? Don't Americans care more about Lindsay Lohan than what happens in Iraq?
To an extent, sure. But additionally, you've also got this hugely distorted media system that is, ultimately a giant cartel that the government helped create and then, create on behalf of these large industry owners. And then they go and work with the government and manipulate the news. So, in a way, they are giving the customers what they want, but it's also giving the customers who have been propagandized for 100 years what they want. And
yeah, and I think when we look at this, just look at the success of WikiLeaks. I mean, they're getting donations. A lot of people are turning to blogs and alternative media now that this option is available to them. I think a lot of it, you just look, for example, at advertising. I mean, advertising works. It gives people the idea that a certain product is the right one to choose. So when you have mass media and what you hear is that, this is the news, this is the facts, this is what's going on.
this is what's important.
This is what's important. Yeah, this is the role that the news media has in society, and this is what they do. So I think when you have that, mentality, it kind of drives what people want. It's not just that people want something and then a service is provided. There is an effort to change what's demanded by people who are well suited to provide a particular product.
Yeah, and
so
when
I
there's
think you
not
see
enough
that.
competition in that market, then I think people's perspectives get skewed. Their view gets narrowed, and it makes it much more difficult for individuals who have all kinds of other things going on in their life to really filter and prioritize these other things because the government is just so good at propagandizing all the other things.
Well, do you think there's any kind of a quid pro quo going there? Like, you push this sort of message for us and we'll give you better access. And, that's just, sort of the business that they're in. So they kind of have to be dirty.
I'm
I
sure
don't-
there is some of that.
I'm sure
going
there's
on.
some of that, but I don't even know if it's that low. Like, that sounds very amateurish to me. I think it's a higher level than that. I think if you look at, not to get conspiratorial, but if you do look at like a web of who owns who and GE owns this station or these companies and that companies, this other big military industrial complex firm owns all these other things, so there's a lot of top down control. I think Of
it
course,
probably influences what people are allowed to work on. It's not like
It's-
you know,
it's
a
not a
reporter will
direct
be. It's
control.
not like a reporter like they're gonna go do the wrong thing and then a giant hand's gonna come out of the ceiling and point to them and tell them to do something else. But it's like the institution that's set up. There are only certain options that they're able to choose within the workplace,
right, and
probably
that's
has-
why I'm particularly amazed, and it could just be that the winds are a changing, and therefore some people are trying to take advantage of it. But when shows like John Stossel's Stossel or Freedom Watch with Judge Napolitano get on the Fox Business station, I mean, Fox Business doesn't have a lot of viewers, not like Fox, the normal Fox cable station. But those shows, I mean, Judge Napolitano, by some accounts, is a either very, very small government guy, or it could be an anarchist. So he's his show is very radical. He's got very radical people on it, and that's on Fox, which is under Murdoch, which, you know, for all intents and purposes was a mouthpiece for the Republican neocon party back in the Bush era. So obviously people get through who have good ideas.
So it's almost like a demand has been built up from the underground that the mainstream is now trying to either accommodate or assimilate or do something with, maybe just profit off it because they don't think it's, you know, that big of a deal. That's just what's in now. Don't worry. It'll be the same thing as the Republican Revolution and the Reagan Revolution and Obama's change and Bush's no nation building. Don't worry. But I think they should be worried, and maybe they are a little worried because right now we're broadcasting live. You know, we don't have a ton of listeners, but we are competing with, you know, the BS that's on TV. We are competing with the BS that's on other radio stations, and people are out looking for new ways to get information, and they're participating in that. And I think that's going to be a big part of the solution, is just what we create. The pressure we can exert on the mainstream from the outside, that they're going to try to co-opt, and then we're going to try to subvert. And this whole, you know, game of who's manipulating who comes out. But really, as long as you just keep creating these new ways to get new messages out, I think that's really going to be a major foundation of how we're going to succeed. We really need to get the message out there.
Actually, Darren, I just wanted to let you know I'm here representing Ted Turner, so you guys are getting bought out. So there's a new format for starting next week.
Okay, so we can get a lot of money if we say that libertarianism is about lowering taxes so wars will run more efficiently. All right, let's do it, guys.
If the price is right, I'd totally do that, as long as, you know, I could have a pseudonym and do whatever else I needed to do, and give the real message later.
I don't know. We could be the Trojan horse. You know, we'll get on TV and then we'll bring out a giant horse, and all these freaking Greeks will come out and just start throwing Molotov cocktails at stuff. Because that's how we get to liberty.
Speaking of liberty, Tennyson just walked in finally, and he brought pizza.
Yeah, I did bring presents. It's goddamn hot outside.
Yes,
I mean,
it
I can't
is.
even. I'm listening to the show on here. It's actually a really good stream. So if anybody else is out there trying to listen to the stream mobily, this is a great thing to do. So it's technology. I'm in the future already. I'm in the
On this
present.
thing, he means his new iPhone 4.
Exactly. You know, the iPhone 4 that I happen to be holding in my hand here. So I just caught up to reality. Okay, here we go. So here, take the mic back.
All right, so we're going to take a short break here. We're going to get everyone oriented. We're glad Tennyson made it, so we didn't have to rely on his evil twin, Jennison. All right, so we're going to take a short break here, and we're going to talk about how hot it is and maybe some technological solutions for that we can make fun of or something, and then some other ways that you can build freedom, some other things that are going on in the world. You know, there's things, there's chatting. It's a lot of good stuff. All right, keep it here, thinkingliberty.net. We're going to break. And we're back on thinkingliberty.net, building the free market by the kilobyte and kilobyte. This is Thinking Liberty. How's it going, everyone?
Kilobyte and the kilobyte, or what was the point of that one?
Shouldn't have been like kilobyte and the megabyte,
Or you could have said kilobyte by kilobyte.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay, that's
kilobyte and kilobyte after kilobyte.
See, that's what I was thinking of it.
And there's a lot of kilobytes.
Yeah, you're gonna need
going
another
through
conjunction then, or whatever.
And or the.
And so we continue. Here we are. Gosh.
So it's
what has
really-
been going on here today?
What's been going on? We were talking about Bradley Manning for a while. We were talking about drug wars in
Oh, yeah.
Costa Rica.
It's too bad what happened to that guy, right?
And wars, yeah.
And then the drug war too. Why did Costa Rica let him in? Did they need money? Is that what happened?
Maybe. The U.S. does often manipulate countries through
They certainly do.
IMFs and
You know, when you got a whole lot of money, you can coerce people into doing things that they may not have ordinarily chosen to freely. So isn't that an argument against the Mark Anarchist position?
Well, it wouldn't be coercion then; it's bribery.
Well, there you
and
go.
What's his face? Guy. I'm completely blank now.
Okay.
It's too hot.
it is hot. What the
pretty
hell
hot.
is going on here? I looked at the freaking weather today. It said
See?
98, feels like 102. There was a heat alert. There was an air quality alert next to an air quality alert and a third air quality alert.
All right, people in the audience, if you could actually see Darian here, you could see he's pulling the Lenin move over and over again, with the hand out and the hand out and the hand. So, yeah, but it was you can blame
Comrades.
yes,
It is too goddamn hot out
exactly.
here.
See, even the Russians are complaining it's too goddamn hot. But it's, you can blame those greedy capitalist corporate pigs who originally polluted the atmosphere in such a way. Now there's so much CO2 out there. It's trapping all that infrared light. No, it's just, we can't do anything. It's
We've
global
got
warming.
ground level ozone.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the ozone. We're thinning out the ozone. No, it's just...
I
don't
thought
know,
that was
man.
coming back.
No, it's kind of coming
Like
back in
80s.
some areas. Like over the Arctic, where it was really thin for a bit, it's actually starting to come back. But it moves because the ozone layer continues moving with the rest of the atmosphere.
We need
so,
to just build a gigantic pump that pumps the ozone from the ground into the atmosphere, and power it by, like, I don't know, crude oil or something. Just
Power
suck,
by
just
crude
suck
oil.
out the Gulf of Mexico into this machine and burn it.
There you go. Let us burn more things. That's the capitalist solution.
Well, you just need scrubbers.
Scrubbers, that's
That'll
right.
fix it. Scrubbers.
Yes, you can get some nanoscopic scrubbers if you like, and it'll take a whole lot of power, but you can find a way to generate that power. Go ahead.
Obama just
Obama's got
and the
power.
Congress just gave $2 billion to build some free energy devices out in the West, right?
Free energy.
Oh yeah. Well, from the sun, right? So it's free.
Oh,
I believe a majority of that, I think something like 1.4 billion actually goes to one specific company, and I think there's like a certain portion of it where it'll actually be permanent jobs as opposed to little temporary.
Gee,
things.
sounds like a government subsidized industry. That's the perfect way to have innovation. You to take out all competition, remove the incentive to innovate by just handing money, because whatever they have out there, that's what we'll have.
And of all people who said that, when I think I tweeted that, and the one person responded, Bosco. Bosco said the exact same thing. Bosco talking about the capitalist spirit of innovation and well, that kind of. It's like, huh?
Now, the capitalist spirit is when capitalists use the government to enforce their
Yeah,
monopoly
yeah.
privileges. We're going to spend the next 2 hours arguing over the definition of
the
capitalism.
real capitalist
one?
spirit is vodka.
The real capitalist spirit is the free market we have today.
It's called Victory Gin. That's what
Well,
it is.
see, all right, let's just go over this real quick for our listeners. Some people use capitalism to denote a free market or the economic system that will naturally arise from a free market, where there's free exchange, there's no coercion, people are free to trade or not to trade as they wish. Some people use capitalism to say rule by capitalists or rule by a government on behalf of capitalists, not necessarily just through handouts, but because of the way that government structures the economy, gives people who have capital an advantage over those who don't. So those are your meanings.
If you want a
Pick one
good
and go with it.
explanation of those, check out, what is it, blackcrayon.org, I think it is. and there's a Capitalism 3, I believe, and they go over 3 definitions, and he writes about how first he saw it as almost how Marx described it, and then he saw it how I forget what the middle one was, and then eventually he saw it as sort of the Austrian economists see it, where they, the fullest extent of anarchism is capitalism, the fullest extent of capitalism is anarchism.
Yeah, B.K. Marcus is he's gone all over the map with that capitalism thing over the years.
Don't forget the Zaxelbacks, guys.
Oh, well, Zaxelbacks is really just one guy. So, and then Wikipedia took it up, and so like everybody knows Zaxelbacks now.
Oh, Zaxelbacks is on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Remember when Roderick was talking about that like a while back, and he said like he's really happy that Zaxelbacks made it to Wikipedia, but he doesn't know when or if it's going to disappear eventually. So,
okay, the Zaxelbacks was what Roderick Long. A metaphor he used in an awesome essay that you should look up. It's called Rothbard's Left and Right 40 Years Later. And he's talking about the different definitions of capitalism. Or just, he's used, it was a speech and the transcript is online. And capitalism, the way it's used today, he says it's like a package deal. It's the free market system that we have today. But, of course, we don't have a real free market. We're not free to trade as we wish. So he was saying that he could make up a term called a Zaxelbacks and define it as a sphere around metallic sphere like the Washington Monument. That's the definition, a round metallic sphere like the Washington Monument. Of course, the Washington Monument is not a round metallic sphere, but if that's the definition, then you're creating something nonsensical. So look that up, Rothbard's Left and Right, 40 Years Later. It's a good one, and B.K. Marcus's Black Crayon site. And I think Kevin Carson, he kind of has my perspective on it pretty well in his Capitalism, a Good Word for a Bad Thing. Sheldon Richman had a similar argument.
I'd like to say since Bosco isn't here, he is with us in the chat room, and he said real quick for the listeners, some people use the word capitalist wrong. Those people are bile. Other people use it correctly. Those people are everyone else.
That's Bosco. He never exaggerates or is sarcastic at all. So 100% true. But back to this heat here. Tennyson's plugging in his contraption.
His heat-making device.
I believe, heat-making device called a laptop computer. He carries this laptop computer with him everywhere, but he probably wishes that he could just integrate it into his body and just look at it. But he doesn't have a mic on him yet. But let's get on Tennyson here. Tennyson, you're like a transhumanist. You can tell the audience what that means. You're about the singularity. You can explain that one too. You believe that a lot of biology's problems can be solved with technology. So on a hot day like this, what does transhumanism have to offer us? He's holding on. He's got to connect his technology here.
Damn 21st century technology. I want later 21st century technology. That's what I'm waiting for. So
Apple will come out with that in a couple weeks.
Yes, they will. That's what they do nowadays. Eventually we'll get an Eve, just like it is with the singularity when it comes in Wall-E. But transhumanism would say about changing human beings themselves. So if human beings are maladapted to living with extreme temperatures like that, well then
extreme.
Yes, extreme, like like the X Games kind of extreme.
I have to say that every time the word extreme is brought up.
I mean, you have to say it in a certain way, like extreme or something like that. No? Okay, better. Anyway, you can change the human structure itself. And you can change it to something that will actually, adapt to extreme temperatures a whole lot better. Extreme colds, extreme heats. I'm going to use a key word extreme over and over again, so he says it eventually when he stops chewing his pizza. But
extreme.
All right, we got somebody else saying extreme over here.
Extreme pizza.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. And so, even if you aren't going to change the human being, though, Imagine having the ability to change the entire world, if you like. But that's a lot more drastic than just changing yourself.
Doesn't sound like you'd be able to change the entire world consensually. Like somebody's going to want to turn the goddamn heat up, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, what you could do is just make your own planet. Or you could just have a consensual agreement, since everybody might be in contact at the time. Say, okay, on this day of this particular time, or at least this minute of this particular day of this particular time, I get to control the weather of the entire world.
Well, why does it matter anymore? Because
It
if you're
doesn't.
Because if you're jacked into your own brain,
Yeah.
then you can just simulate heat
You could.
without it actually being hot.
You could, but you might like to see it in meat space as well, because people like both things. You can have cyberspace, you can have meat
But then,
space. Look for it.
then you just convince them that they're in meat space, and then it doesn't matter.
You can try and fool all the people all the time, but it's not
It could
really.
be the Matrix.
It could be the Matrix. You could be in the Matrix right now. Prove you're
It
not.
could be.
Yeah, prove you're not.
I'll do that later.
Okay, we'll do it later, because I'm thinking about the simulation argument. If anybody out there knows the simulation argument, without Googling it, see if you can put it in the chat room.
If we're in a simulation, who gives a shit?
Yeah, kinda, but no. That's more like a conclusion
That's
from
like
the
an
simulation.
if-then statement.
Yeah, it's a conclusion from the simulation argument. A lot of people come
Darian
to.
tried to break out the computer talk. If then, else, while,
That's it.
until.
You're gonna try and you're gonna get your semantics in there. No, I don't know.
We're like the elitist of elite on this show. I mean,
31337.
Roscoe's even
It's
wearing a
like
shirt
337.
that has freaking code on it. I
Oh,
mean,
gosh.
he's like a walking computer.
Yeah, it's like what does that say right there, Roscoe? Does it say that to the audience?
This is one of the. There's no place like localhost or 127.0.0.1.
Which is home. So there's no place like home.
Instead of 192, use 127.
127.0.0.1 is the loopback device on a TCP/IP or an IP stack, and so you can always get to yourself that way. It is the default.
All right, so Tennyson, you're talking about transhumanism and making humans better adapted to extreme temperatures. How would this work? Just for example, I'm not asking you to give me charts and graphs and PowerPoints and
Keynotes.
I don't know whatever else people are using these days, but just some ideas to get people thinking. Like how could we improve on this?
Well, so probably the first thing to do would be to understand the limitations of regular biological cells. Their cells are incredible machines. They're incredible, fantastic factories, better than pretty much any microchip that we've got right now, and they're amazing. But they have their limitations, just like all biological matter does. And if you can find a way to engineer your way around those limitations, or even just surpass them by creating new structures, then you're on your way. So that's essentially the idea. I mean, think about something that could actually withstand heat. First, you might want to answer the question, what are you? If we want to download your entire brain into some other substrate or something, then you yourself could experience what everything is like in some other substrate. It'd be funny. At least I find it would be funny. Other people would say, oh, that's freaky and scary, and we need to kill anybody who has those ideas. But I'm not down with that. So.
But isn't it against God and against nature
It
to
could
be, innovating like this?
It could be. I mean, people said that about all the other past innovations, all the other things that people said against nature, like, oh, your anesthetics. My gosh. God said that you're supposed to feel pain, especially during birth. That was the part of the curse that God had laid upon Eve after she had been banished from the garden along with Adam for tempting him.
Because women are the source of all problems.
Well, apparently, Adam tried to shift the blame onto God himself, because he said, no, it was the woman that you gave me. It's like, why?
God, what are you trying to do to me here?
Yeah.
Come on!
Yeah, and so God kind of took offense to that, and and he kicked them both out of the Garden of Eden. But people who are religious have had
Worth
to,
it.
They're totally worth it. That's what she said. But anyway, people have had to struggle with this idea of transhumanism. Religious folks who are transhumanists and atheists who are transhumanists, you have to find a way around this. Is it actually compatible with what people are thinking about from their Bibles and Qurans and Vedas or whatever they may have? Yeah, people have said they found ways to make it compatible, and I don't really focus on that too much because I don't care as much.
Well, I mean, it took me a while to get my head around this idea. It's almost like I I'm not really sure why, but it seemed like it was wrong to do this. But
Yeah.
really, self-improvement is what humans have been about.
It's true.
And that's the only way we've had progress. And anything good we have is really because we're self-improving, including this pizza that's still in my mouth.
It's
as I'm
delicious.
talking to you.
I know. I was talking with pizza in my mouth earlier too. It's going to come out all fuzzy on the recording, I bet. But it's just some. I've heard
Just
one
your Marlon Brando.
one definition of humanity, or a creature that is sentient or human that would count, is the creature that can control its own evolution, and that seems to be the heart of humanity. It's what they're able to do. They can control their own evolution, whether it's through mechanical external tools or it's alterations to themselves, which is really just one more step. It seems like that's just what we do, and this is a continuation of the same process that's been going on for several million years now.
Okay, I'm going to bring up some counter arguments that were brought up by Bosco in the chat room. Let's see if we can scroll up to that first one, the anarcho-primitivist stuff. Hold on, where are we going? Okay, we're getting up there. There's one. Let's do the first one. Okay, all right. Here's Bosco. Anarcho-primitivist heat solution. Stop complaining. Your skin will harden and stop burning. You'll get used to the heat, and you'll die at 40.
That's
LOL.
That is
was added by
quite
someone else.
That's quite tempting, some people really will go for that idea. No joke. They love that idea of being the primitivist and all, rejecting all the technology and continuing with some other technology that's not quite as advanced, but is somewhat advanced compared to the most of humanity, human's history at least. And I'm fine with that. They're going to be, even later on, singularity come. They're going to be people who are bioconservatives, who will stay themselves, who will not upgrade. And I say no more power to them. Let them feel free. That's the libertarian perspective involved in transhumanism, which some people have tried to get rid of in the past couple of years. And I'm not going to point fingers at Humanity Plus here, but
okay, there was another argument brought up. Okay, Tennyson is on to the simulation. Let's pull him out.
Simulation? Yeah. There's no simulation. What are you talking about?
Stupid machines. So this is I think when people bring up these critiques of industrial civilization or a specific aspect of civilization, even some of the things civilization was founded on, I think it's worthwhile looking at that because it questions the course that history has actually taken. And when we look back, all these advances were made in a context of authoritarian thought because there weren't really enough libertarians around. There wasn't enough explicit libertarian ideas being shared and, being empowered. So a lot of these technological advances were made in, according to the society where the dominant idea was that some people would dominate others. So it's good to look at these things and question them and to experience different things, experience the primitive. But to throw out, the advancement of humans, it's just wrong. And I'm looking at this awesome watermelon that's in front of me, and I can smell it, and I really want to bite it. But I'm going to be professional because I are a professional cat, and this our professional program. And I'll wait till the next break to have that awesome watermelon that you are not experiencing if you're listening to this.
I'm not going to comment on the watermelon, even though it's right in front of me, and it looks pretty good.
But you are messing with the mic that can be heard over the radio. So please.
What can you hear on the radio? What can you hear?
Like this. Which you can't hear because you don't have a monitor on, but I can hear it because
I gotta start.
Bile
I gotta
hears
start wearing
all.
some headphones in this show.
My name is Bile. I hear everything you do, and it pisses me off.
Just about.
Okay, so we're talking about the singularity there, and what is the singularity? What does that term mean?
Well, there are different people who have different definitions for it. Eliezer Yudkowsky, he's given at least 3 different definitions for the thing. I mean, not himself, but he's identified 3. It's like you got Werner Vinge, who came up with the term. I don't know if you pronounce his name Werner Vinge, Werner Vinge, Werner Vinge, or whatever his name is, but he's the guy who won a bunch of Hugo Awards and came up with this original idea of the singularity. I mean, he didn't even he independently came up with it because another person said singularity about the similar idea a long time ago. But anyway,
Well, isn't the word singularity used in science
it
also to
certainly
explain
is. It's
something
used in
that you
used in
are-
physics and astronomy when you figure, and it's also used in mathematics too.
So is that where they got the idea from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think first it came out in mathematics, and then they applied the mathematical idea to the physics, astronomy thing, the black hole, the singularity, the event horizon, all that, where you can't see beyond the event horizon. Regular rules of physics and quantum physics kind of break down beyond the event horizon, so they call it a singularity, this event that you can't really understand. It's beyond what we know. And in mathematics, it has to do with asymptotes, where it constantly approaches infinity or constantly approaches another line tangent, and never actually reaches it. I forget the exact definition, but Werner Vinge's one was the idea of a superintelligence. That was his whole thing. A superintelligence would be unpredictable because we have our own regular intelligence. We can't understand what a thing that is super intelligent would think beyond us. It'd be trying to think beyond what we can think, and it doesn't make any sense. And a superintelligence would be able to enhance its own intelligence, and it'll continue doing so and doing so and doing so until it is just completely far beyond anything. The singularity happens at that point where intelligence is able to enhance itself. And that was Werner Vinge's thing. Another person said, well, it's the point in the future where... Ray Kurzweil has another one where he says it's a point in the future where you simply can't predict what's going to happen next. You can kind of predict what's happening in a smooth curve exponentially, but you can't predict with any particular accuracy.
Okay, so not all transhumanists are they agree with the idea of the singularity, correct?
No, most of them do. I can't think of any transhumanist person who would call themselves a transhumanist who doesn't expect or have conviction that there is going to be something like a singularity according to every definition that singularity holds. So
okay, well, is it really any more dramatic than, say, someone from the 1400s transformed into transplanted into today's society?
Yes.
I mean, they
far more dramatic.
far
Now,
beyond
Eliezer Yudkowsky, I mentioned his name again, but he wrote... somebody's ringing the bell over here. Yeah, he wrote this thing a long time ago, which was staring into the singularity or the low beyond or singularity
Does
horizon.
the singularity also stare?
I suppose it may, but it depends.
Only if it's an abyss.
The singularity might stare into another singularity, which comes a couple of minutes after the first one. So,
Wow, you're just gonna make my head explode.
so Eliezer gives this example of what human beings know and what they don't know, this bounded rationality of theirs, and the idea of really, really, really large numbers. And people can understand, large numbers in a way that they can kind of break it down. There are this many digits here. I can kind of fidget around with this thing. But imagine something even larger, like an infinitely larger, or not even infinite, but getting close to infinity. That kind of thing that human beings have difficulty comprehending. That's how far ahead that the thing will be. That's how different it is. A person from like the 20th century going back to the 10th century, they would have a way easier time. Or a 10th century person going to the 21st century. It would be, maybe a couple of weeks transition. Very difficult, yes, but it would be nothing like the singularity that comes.
Okay, so that was a little bit about our future. Let's talk a little bit about the past here. Shift gears a little, I guess. Turn the time machine around. How about that American Revolution, guys?
It was all right. A little limited, but no, it was all right.
They did pretty good for the time.
For the time. So Independence Day was the other day.
Yeah, it was.
There
American
was
Independence
celebration, much explosions, barbecues, I'm sure.
Bombs bursting in air.
Yes.
Yeah, we had
The
some
rocket's
of that.
red glare.
Hey, so how we're on the show. We're anarchists. I don't know about Roscoe. He's like different.
He's named after a gun. I mean, what do you think?
A gun. I don't know.
It's a Desert Eagle. He's a Roscoe.
If he was only that cool.
He's also Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. I'm not going to mention Chicken and Waffles just like I'm not going to mention the watermelon. There's a particular reason for that.
What were you saying?
I'm not going to touch that one.
There you
Tennyson.
all right.
I think someone missed the whole chicken and waffle thing with Roscoe, but
okay.
yeah, there it is with my appropriate levels that Biles scolded me about.
All right. Well, there's a V from V for Vendetta mask over there. If you want this show to not be racist.
No, I don't even know what V is. He seems pretty high colored up there. I don't know.
All right. So
In fact, he doesn't even have much of a color, does he?
all right. So let's get into this race thing. What did the American Revolution do for people who were not really the race of the dominant people in society?
People who weren't the race of dominance, and they weren't the gender of them, or the religion of them, or the economic class of them. It didn't really help them dramatically, but I suppose it gave them
them on a
possibly
better-
the opportunity to challenge some of the things that had already existed in the previous status society of
Yeah,
Britain.
put them on a better vector.
Yeah, maybe a little better vector, and then again, maybe it snatched some things away depending on where you were, because Great Britain eventually abolished slavery, and then it did it through all the rest of the empire. And so if the United States had stayed with Great Britain for just a little bit longer, then maybe slavery would have been abolished at the beginning. And then the Founding Fathers could have separated, and then maybe they would have reestablished slavery. Who knows? But because some of them were a lot of slavers themselves. But let's say that it was abolished and it was done. There would have been no cause for the Civil War except for maybe tariffs and things like that. And the United States would have been a whole lot better off had it just stayed with the British Empire a little bit longer. Maybe.
Never know.
And then we think about our neighbor to the north, Canada, who did stay with the British Empire for a little bit longer. They didn't really turn out too bad, did it? No,
Except when Canadians can't make it to Thinking Liberty because their vehicle broke down, and the limo that we sent for them also broke down.
Oh,
It must have
come
been a Canadian limo.
on. I mean, at least you'll tell jokes. We love the Canadians.
Well, Canadians only get around on ice hockey skates, so now's not really good weather for that.
It was actually Canada Day just the other day, so happy Canada Day to the.
What the hell is Canada Day anyway? Like, it's a
it's-
day for Canada. Like,
Yes, it is a day
Isn't I don't know.
It's a lot like Independence Day, but they're not American, and they will proudly
They're
say that
proudly
they are not
un-American.
Exactly.
So, getting back to the American Revolution, I think my general sense is that it gave the idea of liberty kind of a kickstart. Would slavery have been abolished if these ideas of liberty hadn't been so prevalent enough to actually overthrow a government and separate it and overthrow a lot of these institutions of society? I don't know. When you had the American Revolution, it wasn't just a military campaign, and it wasn't just a bunch of rich white guys controlling everything. Certainly,
It was mostly
a certain class of people, mostly rich white landowners, did end up in control. Landowners, merchants, bankers. But I think during the actual event, the actual revolutionary era, there's a lot of questioning of power in general, and a lot of people trying to create more independence, for themselves and their own lives, based on class. So I think what happened is you have an uprising. The politicians start taking over. The politicians create rules, and after the revolution, the politicians set themselves up in control, and they cemented their control when they cracked down on Shays, when they created the Constitution, and when they cracked down on the Whiskey Rebellion. So I think that's
all of that. All of that is exactly true. But even before that, we should probably talk about what were the causes of the revolution in the first place. I mean, we're talking about this revolution as if it's just something that happened, but why would they do it in the first place?
The merchant class was pissed off that the crown wouldn't let them do what they wanted, more or less. I mean, there was more to it. You had visionaries, you had people who were idealistic, people like Thomas Paine, who, if you ever read about his history, had nothing, or when he did have anything, it became nothing rather quickly. So individuals like him existed who truly were liberals, the true classical liberals of the time. You had others who were liberal-leaning,
Like
but
Jefferson.
like Jefferson.
Jefferson came pretty close. I mean, he was even friends with Jean-Baptiste Say. He did a translation of his book, and that was what gave him his ideas of political economy in the first place. So it's pretty. He was definitely very close economically in those ideas.
Well, I think the the creating the situation where power is being questioned and the nature of power is being examined, allowed for a lot of room to get out new ideas that you wouldn't see. I mean, common sense is a fairly radical thing. When you look at it, he's saying that monarchy
He means
is
the pamphlet.
crap.
The pamphlet, Common Sense.
Yes, the pamphlet, Common Sense. Read that. It's a great read, and it's short. It's a great read, and he questions the monarchy.
He does.
Monarchy, the whole order, the thing that was supposed to hold society together. He's saying, a French bastard landing with an armed banditti is
Yes.
a pretty paltry original, and there's no divinity in it. What are these crowned ruffians really worth? He uses that phrase,
Yes.
crowned ruffians, and he says, of more worth is one honest man in society than all the crowned ruffians who ever lived.
Yes.
And I mean, that's like, the
That's-
political class that's in control, that's supposed to be the
That's-
source of order. He's saying,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
Yeah, that is a common man going up to and just coming up to a king and slapping him in the face in front of everybody in the world. It was pretty incredible what he had written, and it kind of made him a persona non grata for a lot of places. And
Yeah. I mean, he didn't end up with a lot of friends.
he at least escaped with his head from France. so.
Just barely.
Just
and
barely.
If you read a lot about it, it
Yeah.
appears that it was accidental that he survived at
Yeah.
all. I think it was something like they had gone around one day. Well, he had sent letters to Washington
Yes.
in an attempt to get him, to have Washington
He's
attempt
trying
to get him
talk
out.
to some old friends from the Revolution days, but he had pissed off a lot of people back during after the Revolution anyway, because his continued agitation for liberty and also his irreligious stances kind of pissed
didn't
off a lot of
give up.
people as well.
Well, I think not only that, but he never kept down a job. Any money
That's true.
any money he had, he spent, usually trying to propagate his own ideas, which
Yeah.
is admirable. But the man was constantly in poverty, was always getting handouts from people, and I think that didn't, his personality, I didn't think go well with the people that he had helped propagate through the revolution. But he was in these French prisons, and I guess like literally one day before.
His execution day.
Yeah, well, yes, they had gone around and had put marks on all these doors to indicate who was supposed to be executed, like the next morning. And his cell door opened in the reverse of all the other cells because it happened to be closest to, like the large opening. And so when they marked his door, it actually ended up being on the opposite side. And like so that morning, it is believed that the person who went around to collect the people to be executed missed his cell door because the mark was on the wrong side. And like later that day or the very next day, he was released after an American ambassador or something came and on his behalf.
See, what I think actually happened is that they're like, all right, let's execute that guy. Who is he? Thomas Paine?
Tom
Oh,
Paine.
damn, he's going to bring the pain on us. We can't mess with that.
Okay.
Let's just leave him be. We'll release him and we'll give him to the Americans. They can deal with him.
See, they were French. So they're probably thinking his name meant bread or something. So we're gonna give him some bread.
He was going to bring the pain.
He's not gonna use auto tune and he's not T-Pain over here. He's just Tom Paine.
So
Anyway,
Tom
but
Paine,
old
good,
Tom Paine.
good guy.
Yeah,
So
Tom Paine lived in my old hometown. That's why we know quite a bit about him. And he had his cottage right across from my old high school. So,
isn't he buried up there?
I don't know where he's buried, but
I think
it
he's
was-
buried somewhere in like Westchester or
Could be. I mean,
or,
that's where
like,
we are. So I was right in
one
New
of those-
Rochelle, right where he was, and
There's only 2 statues of Thomas Paine in the world.
Yeah.
One is in Fort Lee, New Jersey,
Yeah.
and the other one's in France.
oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
And-
there's something that's out there that kind of looks like Tom Paine out there, but I'm not sure what's there because
like a
I
little
haven't
stick
I
figure.
haven't been up there in a long time, so I can't remember what exactly is up at the Tom Paine cottage. But there's all types of pictures and things.
So
in there.
Independence Day, cool or not cool?
No, it's pretty cool. It's a great party, and it seems
when
like
it's- when it's
if you wanted to
referred to
shoot
it-
people, that'd be a great time to do it.
When it's
Oh,
referred to
sorry.
as Independence Day, it's much better. As Bosco was complaining earlier in the chat room, that the whole movement towards calling it the 4th of July, which has been going on for some time now, but rather than Independence Day, is another one of those. It's often been brought up in the past by people like Glenn Beck and others as part of like this culture war, where they're undermining what America stands for. But really, I think it does add
Taking
to
the
that.
Christ out of Christmas.
In a way, I think it is.
It's
I mean,
the
if-
big SH, the secular humanists. They're doing it to us.
I don't know about that, but when you don't refer to things by really what is a more appropriate name, I think you lose that in the culture. And by referring it to as the 4th of July and thinking of, barbecues and fireworks, you lose the ideology that comes along with Independence Day.
There's the power that exists in a name, and so if you start changing the names of things, and you can start changing the power behind the name, and it's old ideas.
I'm actually more for just getting rid of the ideas behind it. Not everybody may feel free from 4th of July or whatever, so why not just make it a day about celebration like Cinco de Mayo, which apparently Mexicans or whatever don't really care about. So just make it about celebration. I enjoy, December 25th. I don't really care for Christmas or so on like that. So, yeah.
Do you like getting presents on December 25th?
Yeah, I'm enjoying other people enjoying themselves. I don't
Okay. So
particularly care for
if
it.
you get any presents, you just hand them over to me.
There
I'll
you
take it.
Hey, so maybe July 4th should just be a day to celebrate freedom. Make it Freedom Day.
I mean,
Freedom
it's
Day.
it definitely
Not America Day, not Canada
It is
Day.
the day that they talk about the Declaration of Independence. No, the Declaration of Independence is dated 4th of July, and it enunciates some very wonderful principles, and they immediately betrayed them during and after the Revolution. So
I don't know if they really betrayed them. It's just that they
They-
didn't really fully apply them ever.
Ever.
All men are created equal.
Except
It
for
depends on
you.
who you're calling a man. Let's not go there. Let's remove that plank about slavery. That's not really important. All
let's,
these
let's
things.
take out that bit about equality being the source of liberty, and we'll just change it to equality and liberty. It's
So this is Independence Day again. 4th of July is when the Declaration of Independence was signed. You'll see people talking about how July 2nd is really
That's the
Independence Day. Sometimes you get this urban legend about how it took 2 days for people to know, so they made July 4th Independence Day. But really, Congress voted
they
to create a new
decided.
nation
Yes.
on July 2nd.
Right.
On July 4th, they signed the Declaration of
Right.
Independence. So if you actually like the principles in the Declaration, then July 4th is his holiday. If you're one of those damn statists who doesn't care about liberty, you just want a new nation to pump your fist to while you chant its initials, then July 2nd is your holiday. So you can have your goddamn USA Day. We'll have our Independence Day, and ours will be better.
You think it'll be better, and then the status will crush you, like the grape that you are.
Grapes are pretty good. I like grapes.
Crushed grape.
Seedless or seed?
However they come, and
He doesn't know whether he has seeds or not.
I just eat the seeds. Nah, I don't.
Is that what it is? He's
So,
been,
Bosco is all about supporting the USA. Apparently,
He's been
in the
eating
chat room
seed.
there.
see, if that's the thing. If you blow off one arm with a firework, you still have another arm to pump USA with your fist.
Which-
that's how you do it.
Which you almost did.
No,
Did you almost kill yourself this year?
no.
Oh my gosh.
I just got a little burn. Skin falling off. That
Oh god.
it happens.
Where was it? Let me see that.
Where was it? Let me show you.
Let's see.
There,
It's
Oh,
just on
God.
and there.
It's pretty lame.
Oh gosh.
Eh.
He was at
No
one
big-
point.
no
He was throwing basically a wolf pack, but he had taken the paper off of it
Okay.
and lit it. But most of it was the fuse was lit, and as he threw it, it fell apart in the air, and so these firecrackers went in like a rainbow over his head as he ran for dear life.
And I almost dove into Ryan's crotch. Just FYI.
There's a lot of room in there.
It is a very safe spot to be in.
It's yeah. He'll keep you safe there.
Can Darian grip the microphone? I don't know. He's been talking about seeds and swallowing and gripping microphones. I don't know.
I don't know. So Independence Day, good holiday. I think Voltairine de Cleyre wrote in Anarchism and American Traditions, good essay about how when people call it the American Revolution, but they don't even really know why it's called a revolution. That's just the name. What they're thinking about is a military campaign, and the whole reasons for revolution they get lost. So, and the whole idea of revolution gets lost. So we're for doing consistent revolution here. We want to keep turning things over until we evolve towards liberty and turn over the things we need to turn over while we're evolving there. So I think we are going to take a break here in a moment, and we're getting a lot of chatting going on in the chat room.
I like the chat room.
So there's chatting going on. So join that. Stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back on ThinkingLiberty.net.
.net.
And we are back on thinkingliberty.net, the show that turns good citizens into gay terrorists. So, well, at least some of us are back. Some of us are busy eating over there, sustaining their lives and stuff.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so let's go on here. Something that might be of use if you are considering making alternative local economies or just for other things that you could leverage technology for is a website called neighborgoods.net. It's kind of like neighborhoods, but it says neighborgoods.net, like getting goods from your neighbors. So it looks like there aren't a whole lot of people on it right now, but the idea is it's just a place to go where you post things that you will be willing to share, and you can borrow things from other people in your neighborhood. So
if I want to get the goods on my neighbor, is that the place to do it?
Only if your neighbor has signed up for it.
All right.
So I guess a lot of giggling going on here. I'm not sure.
We got a communist over there giggling with somebody, so.
So I guess it takes a step further
we got
than
some people
Craigslist.
shaking their asses in
Yeah,
front of
I
the
mean,
fan
it's like,
over there.
of course there's a lot of stuff going on Craigslist, but
They are
neighbor
having a
goods
lot of
is
fun.
like for a specific thing.
See, watching them is
and
more
it's, like,
fun than
fun
listening
up
to the show. If I could get the
build
video
more of a
camera
community, like you have actual usernames that are used. There's like a rating system, things like that. So it's like in the beginnings. So
you want to
it's
go over there
something
and
that,
dance with them, don't you?
It could be useful. A lot of things that we talk about
fan
have
is
to
over
start
there. That's
from
why
the
they're
ground
doing
up. They have to start in the neighborhood, and this could be a way to facilitate that. If you trade service for service, good per good, who knows? Maybe you'll even be exchanging labor notes or something eventually.
What's the attraction of exchanging labor notes?
I don't know. It's just a note that's easy to make. Everybody has
Yeah.
labor, so everybody can make a note. It's
know.
good for some amount of labor.
That sounds like it could lead to some indentured servitude or some slavery. I don't know.
It's for people who don't understand money.
That's what I think.
Because labor notes, it goes back to the whole labor theory of value
Yeah.
thing, and ultimately,
Not even a very good version of the labor theory of value.
yeah, you end up with people who are trading an hour of labor for an hour of labor. But
Ithaca
if you're
hour.
babysitting, and then you have a guy you're trading with who's a mechanic or something, working on your car, it's not exactly a one-for-one relationship there. You can't, and if you end up trying to evaluate that, well, an hour of babysitting is more like 5 seconds of manual labor working on a car, then you're getting down to why you want to use a commodity
That
in the
starts
first
becoming
place is money.
subjective value after
So
a while. It looks like.
possibly that'll be the next step once people start trying to.
It sounds like a lot of people are going to get
exchange
pissed off, and then that's the next step.
Well,
So
I don't know. I mean, when you look at some of the local exchange trade systems, they have like you can set how many. How many hours of something, or what you're willing to trade for a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
There's like different hours of this for different hours of that. So there are different ways people are doing it. But yeah, an hour for hour labor.
I've
note
seen
system,
the
it's
local
kinda-
exchange trading systems, the LETS and stuff like that. I mean, I appreciate what they're trying to do, but I'm not sure if it's really what I'm going for, which is the actual creation of a market commodity money, an actual money, the most marketable substance or thing in an economy. But it seems like what they're doing is using reference to what already exists as money in order to have a reckoning of what they're talking about.
They have an idea, and they want to live up to that idea rather than money, which it just spontaneously comes out
Exactly.
of a normal economy. Because even if you look up implementations of most of these labor systems, or say a LETS, for example, even the people who promote it will outright say, yeah, it really doesn't work unless it's a dedicated group of a few people, and once it grows to a certain size, you end up with too much overhead and keeping track of what's going on, and just the whole thing falls apart. It's you
it's
don't
not
have
real
that problem
money.
with free market money.
Right.
Like,
It's not a real money. It's something that sometimes they use to make reference to the outside, actual wider money that people really do accept. But just like Rothbard and Mises made the point about money, is that money is not a social convention. It's not just a bunch of people agreed, got together, and said, this is going to be money. Like, no, it actually came out of things that people wanted to use. And I mean, accepting bits of paper for stuff, and especially, I'm going to hand you like 50 labor notes right now, and I want you to labor for me. That seems like it's going to be the situation eventually with labor notes. I'm like,
Well, yeah, I mean, if
I'm
it
afraid of
doesn't
that.
evolve to something else,
Yeah.
I think maybe a mutual credit system would be
that
the way
sounds
to go
good.
if you're going based on labor. That
Yeah.
there's actual agreements for this amount of labor. You're guaranteeing this thing in exchange for this. There's
but
different
unfortunately,
arrangements
the
that could be
problem with
made on a
those
local
mutual
basis.
the problem with mutual credit systems is the overhead required to keep track of what's going
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
and
with
even
the-
like I said, even the people that advocate them say as much. Like, once you get above a very small community, it becomes impossible, and that's where
That's where real money
money comes into play, because it abstracts all that away without all the hassle.
Right. And real money develops as a result of that, because that crisis eventually happens and people realize, oh, wait, we need something else. And that's when money comes into play. But something else that I was going to say before that even came up, what was it that we were talking about?
Well, I mean, I think we're talking about this idea
mutual-
of the neighbor goods just as a way to build an economy.
Oh, yeah.
The
I-
economy
I
that you're
think,
going to build in opposition to the state is going to have to start locally, because how else is it going to start other than crypto communications, which is
crypto
one way to do it,
yeah.
but I don't think it's really a basis for something.
It's true. I mean, I was thinking about the mutual banking thing that like Kevin Carson advocates it as well. Like, Kevin Carson's definitely got a very strong localist streak to him, and I think it's probably going to work on a local basis. It's going to be a social credit system, essentially. If everybody agrees on what kind of value they're going to impute to some other person, that's going to be their social credit rating to that person on a very local basis, that they can really do a mutual banking system. But it'll be a great thing to start off with before you recreate an economy. So
Yeah, well, you got to start somewhere. I mean,
Exactly.
it's all well and good to have all these ideas, but then putting them into action is really hard, especially when you don't really know a lot of people you can trade with.
Yeah, building-
So that's where kind of maybe this would be the beginnings
Yeah,
of a
it's-
real
it's
economy,
surely-
this neighbor goods.
It surely would be a beginning, because building, I know Rothbard and Mises both wrote on the difficulties of building up a free market money system from nothing. If you have a fiat money system, the way that they were particularly looking at it was from where you have a complete fiat money system like we have now, or even something less fiat like we had in the early 70s and prior, where the international money at least was tied to gold.
yeah, the Bretton Woods system hadn't completely fallen
Collapsed.
apart by that time.
But they, the way they were looking at it is if that fiat money system collapses, it's going to be very difficult for individuals to be able to, in such an advanced society, to figure out what would be a good money.
Yeah, reckoning
because-
becomes really difficult.
Right,
and
because
it's-
you've already moved so far past that position where it organically appears from all these, commonly traded.
Absolutely. But I
commodities.
think that the money issue has to be, probably. I'm being distracted over here by these commies. So,
Okay, so
the communists are over here after our precious bodily fluids. That's how your hardcore communists work.
So, Antonio, what's you're saying that fiat is no good? Or what's wrong with the classic Italian automaker?
I mean, it stands for fix it again, Tony.
You can't make a basis of value based on cars. Like,
Sure, you can.
I will-
It just won't work that way.
I will trade you a fourth fiat note for, I don't know, a motorcycle.
I'm not going to accept
I'll
it.
trade you the shock absorber from a Fiat.
I'll trade you a quarter of a motorcycle for any of that. But I'm looking at the ads that came up here. This is hilarious. We got chat rooms 100% free, fine. Chat rooms for free with singles and
Ooh.
lesbian chat. I don't know how that
They
Lesbian
single
chat.
lesbians though.
The world's number one site for lesbian women.
Planet Sappho
Chat and date.
for all your Sappho needs.
All your Sappho needs too.
Speaking of the chat room,
It's
we're getting
funny
other
that's-
money ideas
It's funny
in the
that
chat room.
Funny that Sappho gets an idea here of being associated with the lesbian when she really wrote. She also wrote poems a lot about giving oral sex to men. So it's
Well,
unfair.
The best kind of lesbian.
The best. she was awesome. She was pretty awesome.
I
And-
just,
and men
you know-
hated her so much.
Can we get an official Thinking Liberty position here that we are in fact in favor of oral sex?
Sure, why not? I mean,
Yeah,
it depends
yes.
depends on whether it's good or not. All right, we got Lori.
Wait.
Lori just yelled out yes from the other side
From
of the
the
room
peanut
over
gallery.
here. So,
I said from the peanut gallery.
from the penis gallery.
Wait, what are we talking about? Oral sex?
Are we?
Is that what I heard?
Thinking Liberty officially in favor of oral sex?
I am.
There we go.
All right.
It's fine.
Giving and who's receiving.
Both giving.
I enjoy giving.
All three giving.
I'm a very, very giving person, so I'm fine with that.
All right. So
No, you did that. I will not go down on the mic. If that's what you're trying to suggest.
You got to talk directly into the top there.
Oh, wait, like
you know,
this?
our old producer
this?
actually used the phrase "like you're giving it a blowjob" to explain to myself and Bile and Tennyson how you
Wait,
direct the
am
mic
I
at us.
am I doing it right? Just like how should I angle it? If it's
Tennyson will show you.
I should probably stop here and walk over to Bile. I'm going to stand next to him now.
Correctly.
it's like Lori's behaving. That's what it is. So. Oh, she just realized.
oh, Bosco says wow.
Bosco says, "Wow."
Well,
Yeah,
if
but he-
Bosco was here, I'd show him too. See, this
She-
is everything you miss when you don't come into the
Oh,
studio.
you know
Oh,
that she's
that sounds
wearing
like a
some
challenge
real
for Lori.
skimpy sarong type of thing as well. It's
Fit the whole mic in
Yeah.
your mouth.
Challenge.
All right.
all right.
So
See, this
so-
is how we get ratings here. We start talking about lesbians and blowjobs, and we get ratings all of a sudden.
And now we have on the chat room ads, chat rooms 100% free, lesbian chat, and exclusive silver report.
Okay, lesbian chat made it up to number 2 now. so-
How exclusive is this silver report?
All right, are we going to have
Will
an
there be
actual show?
lesbians?
Are we
Lesbian
going to
silver
just
report?
talk about this? We're going to have silver
Well,
lesbians. We're going to talk
I
about.
wanted to
Show.
talk about what's going on in the chat room, not the ads by Google that are at. Oh, that exclusive silver report is called agorafinancial.com/silver.
You did it.
Maybe they're agorists.
We did it.
We advertise something.
All right,
So
go.
You know, if we're gonna advertise things, we should probably get paid. So
yeah.
we
Oh.
need to convince people
Oh,
that
we got
we're
to start
willing,
doing those
or
ads.
that
dude.
we're
Remember
good
I was
enough.
telling you about? So this episode of Thinking Liberty brought to you by. Come up with something.
Something.
Yes, brought to you by something. And
you
we
know,
have the two ladies in the
look,
audience
for-
yelling out
the
oral
thing
sex.
that
There we
came
go.
to my mind, the thing that came to my head, the exact words
you say
when
head?
Tennyson pointed to me, I just didn't want to say it, but it was penis juice.
Penis
Penis
juice. Okay.
See, you're doing it wrong. It's not penis juice; it's oral sex. That's it.
What?
I'm sorry.
See,
Okay,
this-
so
when you start talking to him about oral sex, he starts thinking penis.
Hold on,
we've
juice.
got Pete Ayer is calling. Pete Ayer is calling. Answer
Ayer.
Pete Ayer.
Okay,
I'm
come on,
trying,
talk
I'm
to us
trying.
about penis juice. Pete Ayer.
Hey, Pete, you're on Thinking Liberty. How's it going?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
We're doing well. You definitely came at a good time here.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sitting here with Adam Miller.
You're free now. You're not thinking getting back into prison anytime soon, or not jail. Jail actually.
So how's it going tonight? I listened to some.
It's going pretty well. It's really hot and like things are
Yeah.
getting crazy in here, but it's good. So
Yeah, it
how
is hot.
how are things going on your end, Pete?
They're going well. We're parked outside of Ian Freeman's house from Free Talk Live, and
Nice.
when we're in Keene, this is where we're at. So Adam and I have been working on since the Greenfield, Massachusetts incident on Thursday. We've been having to allocate some time to that, but also we're still doing logistics and stuff for Liberty on Tour, and we just got Cop Block T-shirts in, so we sent the first orders out today. So just staying busy.
I hear you guys are planning on making a trip down to NYC. How's that going to go?
I think it's going to go awesomely.
All right.
We should be there. I think August 4th to 11th is what we have on the calendar. So
Okay.
that'll be their first stop for Liberty on Tour. So we're really looking forward to making it an awesome one.
All
All
right.
right, cool. So what happened in Greenfield, Massachusetts? Some people were arrested, and then you got arrested. What the hell happened there?
Yeah, a couple buddies here from Keene were coming back with one of their friends, and I guess supposedly they were speeding. They got pulled over, and I guess there was a crushed PBR can allegedly in the car from not that day, but from a while ago. And the cop used that to get into the car, and allegedly found a firearm and some marijuana. So they all went to jail, and then or they were arrested, and then so the next day Adam and I decided, hey, we're in Manchester. like just over 2 hours away. Let's roll down there and see what we can do. So we asked Allison Gibbs if she wouldn't mind coordinating, like collecting money and stuff, because she could be online and do that while Adam and I are in transit. So we thought a good distribution of labor, and so we drove down there. We first heard our friend Rich Paul. We were going to try to get him out for sure, and maybe our buddy Mark Capuzzo, but it turned out Mark's bail was too high for us to get him out at the time. But so anyway, they got arrested on a Wednesday, and on June 30th, and we went down on Thursday, July 1st, and we went into the lobby of the jail, the Franklin County Jail, and we were both filming at the time. And the attendant behind the desk, initially said, "Hey, you guys can't film." And we pointed to the wall where all it said was no use of cell phones, nothing about filming. We pointed out the fact that there are cameras in the ceiling. The fact that they work for us. How what sense does it make? They can tell us what we can and can't do. And and we went back and forth for a while. But then a supervisor walked by. Adam grabbed him, explained the situation to him, and he essentially told the guy, "Hey, just let them film, take their money, get their buddy out here, get them on their way." So we were about to do that, but Adam and I, like I said, we didn't know what Rich's bail was, so we learned what it was. Went down to this, left the scene, went to an ATM at a grocery store a couple blocks away and got the money out. And while we were doing that, a Greenfield Police Department sergeant, Todd M. Dodge, stopped and questioned us essentially. We kind of left the scene, asked if we were free to go. And so we left, went up to the jail. And again, when we walked in this time filming, we were told we couldn't film, and we're like, "What just happened? We were here like 10 minutes ago. What changed?" And the dude behind the desk was like, "Well, that's the policy now." And da 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 da. So then soon a couple of his colleagues were out, and then Todd M. Dodge had come in, and we went back and forth. Adam, suggested we go outside because one of their concerns was that we were filming people in the lobby, which we weren't, purposefully doing. But we told them they had no presumption of privacy because of all the cameras in the ceiling. But anyway, so we go outside. We're on the sidewalk outside the jail. They tell us to shut off the cameras or we're getting arrested. They told us we could go across the street and film. And, we pointed out, hey, earlier we could film in the lobby and then we couldn't. Then we could film outside and now we can't unless we go across the street. What is it was very arbitrary. So anyway, they ended up arresting us because we would not stop filming. And, we both went limp. They dragged Adam to a car. They carried me to a car, brought us to the jail. They didn't tell us what we were charged with, didn't let us make a phone call, didn't give us blankets. We were kept there overnight. And then the next day we went to the courthouse. We saw a judge, and we were eventually released on our own recognizance, except I don't know, I have a little stipulation. It's not a big thing, but so when it's all said and done, Adam and I both have felony wiretapping charges and resisting arrest charges, and I also have felony firearm / ammo charge and misdemeanor VIN manipulation charge. So I don't know, it's all pretty ridiculous, and we're just but it was great because word went out, some money was raised for our bail, and I know a couple of y'all helped kick in for that, so we really appreciate it. And so we're just trying to, we're going to try to hold these guys accountable just like we're trying to do down in Jones County.
Okay. It sounds like there might be some money needed for legal fees if you're all facing felony charges.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough. We both refused to fill out any paperwork or sign any of our rights away. And so they were asking us if we wanted public defenders and stuff. They didn't. We didn't fill any of that stuff out, but they assigned us an attorney for the bail hearing anyways.
Okay, yeah.
And I got lucky and drew the only libertarian public defender there is in that town. And so he was pretty excited to have the case. And me and him kind of bartered a deal for the state charges. So he's going to work with me and as well as another lawyer from here in New Hampshire to get those charges dropped. I'm still waiting to hear back from the ACLU, which had contacted my family back in Wisconsin saying they'd be interested in helping along. And I've already found 2 cases online where I found 5 cases in Massachusetts where people have been charged with felony wiretapping, and 3 of them were found guilty and they actually did time. But those were because they had hidden microphones and lapel mics and hidden cameras. And the other 2 are, one's an anti-war protester and the other was another protest of some sort as well. and both of those were filming in the same manner that we were, and both those were dropped before they ever seen in a courtroom by the whatever district attorney it was.
Okay.
So I'm pretty confident that I think the wiretapping is going to fly, and I think I'm hoping that some other Pete's charges will go out the door too because of the tobacco they got themselves into.
All right, so it sounded like your vehicle was searched with really no reason, and didn't they trash it or something? What happened with that?
Yeah, if you go to copblock.org/Greenfield, you can read a short overview at the top, and then in the exhaustive review of what was going on there. But on that post, there's a map that shows the jail, and then we're about 2.5 blocks from the jail, and like a half a block over is where the RV was located. And so we were arrested, a good 3-4 blocks from the RV, and they went and searched it anyways, claiming that they couldn't see the VIN number. But that's kind of VIN numbers on RVs aren't displayed like they are on cars. Plus, the RV has shades in the front, and so whenever it's hot, you draw them. So they couldn't see them anyways, and you can't see them from the ground anyways. So it was just a cop out. Todd M. Dodge,
unintended.
No cop out.
Yeah.
Todd M. Dodge was visibly frustrated and upset. I would use the word angered about us refusing to film and us going limp, passive. And you got to remember, the whole time we were in that cage, Pete and I were taking any moment we could to express libertarian ideas on them. As they'd ask me my name, and I would answer back with, you don't have to put peaceful people in a cage. They'd ask me for my social security card, and I'd say no victim, no crime. Those would be my responses to them. So I don't know if that irritated them even more, but I wasn't cooperating with what they wanted to do to me no matter what anyways.
So you guys went limp when you were arrested?
Yeah, just like Julian.
So how many people did it take to drag Pete away?
Three. I actually was going to lay down in the back of the car for the whole time, but then I wanted to see that myself as well.
It was ridiculous, man. I mean, the whole time I was like, you guys know you're responsible for your actions, you alone. It doesn't matter what the dude with a shinier badge or a fancier title tells you. Like, you're the person putting us in a cage right now. And like, you may not be, this may not resonate with you right now, but when you go home and take your uniform off and you tell your wife you had a good day and then you're sitting there trying to go to sleep, you're going to think about what we talked about. And so we just continue this for like hours. I don't know if you saw that Santa Fe video where we like talked to the cop, or that Ohio video where we talked to the cop who was like questioning us. Like, those were short, like minute or 5-10 minute videos, but we were doing this for like hours and hours.
Yeah, for the first hour and a half I was in jail, and Pete joined me, I think approximately 15-20 minutes in. I don't really know, but I was yelling, no victim, no crime, peaceful people should not be put in cages. And because I thought we were taken to jail on trespassing charges, so I'm like, oh, they're going to do some paperwork and get me out of here. So I figured I could keep that up the whole time. But we had to improvise after we realized we were going to be there a while.
Hey, Adam, Pete, both of you, I got a question. I got a couple of questions, really.
Sure.
First thing I'm thinking is, what do you think is the possibility that you guys may have been targeted for your activities? Like, do you think maybe they knew about you and Cop Block and saw the vehicle and figured out who you guys were and said, okay, maybe we'll harass these guys because of who they are? What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tennis. I mean, we were both wearing copblock.org t-shirts because we just got them in like the day before. And, so we would interact with these guys like in the jail and stuff, and they talk to us. And then, after a little bit, when they stepped back to realize that we weren't going to like stand down and do it, jump at their commands, they looked at our attire and realized we had copblock.org on. And one of the guys passing through the lobby, like getting off his shift, was was like, he saw the situation, sized it up, and he goes, 4409, are you guys with 4409? And he knew of 4409.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Pete. I don't think we were targeted prior to being arrested, but afterwards, I think Todd M. Dodge and some of the Greenfield Police Department went out of their way to make it the most miserable experience or night of our life.
Right.
Yeah.
They held us in the Greenfield jail, it's not a jail, holding cells. I would guarantee that since there's only 4 of them and somebody had called while I was sitting by Dodge, I assume the question was asking if we were being brought up to the jail, to which his response was, no, they're going to stay here. And I feel he made that decision because we weren't cooperative, because we shouldn't have been there in the first place. And we don't feel we needed to give up our information because we have an appreciation for our privacy, and again, we weren't supposed to be there. But I think he kept us there, and I mean, it was warmer in my jail cell when I got in there. Sure, that might have been because I was being drug around and things, but it was extremely cold there at night, and I wouldn't be surprised if that found out they turned the heat down. They purposely didn't give us a blanket. I mean, the one guy, there was at one point at like the early morning hours where a guy on the intercom who claimed to be the dispatcher was tormenting me, calling me like a rodent, and I should stop walking around.
Yeah, to back up, it was so cold. Like initially when we got in there, I'm like, hey, how can we burn up some time? And like, so we did like a little workout, but then like, you know, at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 1 a.m, we're doing like Adam was pacing and I was, you know, doing jumping jacks and push-ups just to stay warm. And so this caused the dispatcher to tell Adam that even rodents get used to their environments.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I was so upset with that guy. That's the only point where I think we were really calm, cool, and collected, and stuck to the issues. But at that point, I was calling that guy a coward, and I said, you know, I mean, lots of explicit language where I said he should come down here, and he couldn't even say it to my face. You know, like he's got to go over an intercom, and he's some sort of sick individual who spends his whole day watching a guy in a cell who's being, you know, tortured essentially. And then mocks me and gets a kick out of it. That guy made me mad.
And he's just some sick individuals that get drawn to,
exactly.
into this kind of work. It
seems like a barrel that attracts rotten apples to it. You know, when the rotten apples fall off the tree, they go right to that barrel.
It's amazing. So another like,
I'm curious to know. Like, I mean, obviously you guys heard about it somewhat, but are there any like clear? Any holes that you guys don't understand what happened that we can help kind of clarify?
That's exactly what I was going to get to now. So another question specifically on the charges. I mean, it seems like those are really serious charges. They're talking about guns and drugs and alcohol and VIN numbers and all that. Was it really as serious as it seems? It seems like somebody who was just told that they're being charged or being suspected on these things would simply collapse on that and say like, "Oh my gosh, I got to cooperate with whatever the police are saying now because the seriousness of the charges." I mean, did it feel like that when you guys were getting it done?
I mean, yeah, of course they're serious. I mean, I guess with me, I already have 2 felonies, so whatever.
Oh.
And yeah, I guess this is time. I don't really have any faith in the system, but I mean, I know I've done nothing wrong, so I have a clear conscience. And like, I mean, even if they find me guilty, just like they had to drag me into that jail, they'll have to drag me into the next one. And if jail time is what it's going to get for people to understand that wiretapping, like visibly, openly, like, I mean, the Cop Block shirts have a camera pointed at a police officer on them. I had a camera around my neck on a chain, a small one, and one in my hand. If people think I should go to jail for that, then that's messed up. But I think that I don't think people do feel that way. And if someone has to go to jail in order to show people that, well, I guess that's the fight. But I'm not cooperating. I've done nothing wrong. I could care less. I'm going to show up to the court cases in order to highlight it and show how hypocritical and messed up the system is. And by that, I hope to encourage more to get involved and educated and, come to their own logical conclusions. What really happens to me is already a foregone conclusion. The state's already made up their mind. I'm just going to try to make the most out of it and try to share the story with as many people as possible until they decide what they want to do.
Oh, I mean, I certainly admire what you guys are doing, and we're getting a lot of positive comments out of the chat room saying you're heroes and all that, and I certainly wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, what you're doing, you're standing up to the system, you're confronting it in a peaceful manner, and you're doing it well. You're getting the message out and everything. So, how do you guys do this? Like, what is like, going through your head, like when you're doing this, what actually motivates you to what inspires you to be able to stand up to the system in the manner that you're doing and just, keep at it and not back down?
Yeah, I don't know. This is Pete again. For me, it's not like we didn't go in there to Greenfield that day hoping that we'd have an interaction or a confrontation or an incident with anybody with a badge. We film everything. And I didn't think it would be that. I didn't think it would lead to this. I didn't think I'd have 2 felony and 2 misdemeanor charges on me because of, us going in there. But the way I look at it, I mean, you said like confronting the system or this or that. Like, I try not to. I mean, sure, these people do take a paycheck. They're state agents. They steal, whatever, but which is true. But instead of like looking at it like, you know, me and Adam or Tennyson and Darian or whatever versus the state, I just look at it as like, it's like an ideas battle, and essentially like these people are individuals, and that's why I try to get through to them. Like they ask me for my information, I say, hey, you're a stranger. I wouldn't give this sort of information to a stranger. I don't care what, you know, silly costume you have on. So I look at them as, you know, people like any other, and I don't separate them. I don't put them on a pedestal. I don't think they have any extra rights, so I don't treat them with any other
deference.
I guess, like, I don't know, respect, or I try to respect everybody, but these are people who are using aggressive force against me, so I call them out on that. I do so peacefully, but I try to make my point as clear as I can and get through to them as an individual, and not just say, hey, you work for an institution of violence. I say, you're the person doing this.
Exactly.
Every person has a conscience, and every person should use it.
That's exactly right. But doesn't it seem like that would just make you more of a target than they would say, like, well, you're not kowtowing to me. And they need people to kowtow to them because that's exactly the kind of behavior they expect. And if you don't, they'll try to get it in any way that they can, and might increase the odds that you're going to get struck, or, you know, some bad thing may happen. And I don't know, you might be willing to risk that, but somebody else may not be. And if they follow that kind of advice, then I think that they're going to be in for a world of hurt in a short amount of time.
I had trouble hearing that, but I think what you were saying mostly was, for the most part, yeah, man. I think that we did some great outreach to some a targeted group of police officers that may not think about it then, they might not have thought about it yet, but eventually it's going to hit them. I mean, there is a definite seed, especially in the guys who booked us and then had to strip us and photograph our tattoos and then remove our pants in order to see if we had any sharp objects in them. And while they were doing these things, I said, man, how do you feel about doing this to somebody, stripping a man of his clothes and taking photographs of my body? I said, I'm like, you're taking photographs of my nude body. He's like, I'm not taking photographs of your tattoos. I mean, that's how much like they don't think about their job, that it's just like, this is process, not actually what it is, photographing a naked man. And so I really think that resonated with some of them, and I think it will. Back to the question previously answered, we're definitely not heroes. I mean, we have the ability, because of the folks that are out there that are helping us, the support, the people that, I wasn't in that chair 5 minutes before someone called and the officer wrote down the two names because we weren't giving them, and I knew it was somebody calling about us. And so that's super encouraging. The fact that Pete and I are together really helps because we fed off each other. I don't know if I could have yelled in that jail for 12 hours straight without having him 4 cells over. And then there's also the fact that I have less to lose than other folks out there. I mean, I don't have a wife. I don't have any kids. I mean, if they took everything I own right now, it'd take me 6 months at a part-time job to get all that back. So whatever. I wish I feel fortunate enough to be able to take that risk and do these things, but I'm more so and inspired by the folks that are in your chat room and your guys' self over there who support us and allow. I mean, none of this is done in vain. And it's all done as a team effort for educational purposes to help people realize what the state is, just a massive institution of force.
Well, that's good. There's a team effort, and I like to say there should be a division of labor in advocating liberty. You take your own situation and see what you can do for freedom in that situation. So it's good to see.
I mean, we just so happen to like to point our cameras at any public official for accountability. And not only that, I mean, I use the camera as a sense of protection. I mean, it's mostly when I'm encountering bureaucrats, but it's primarily for protection at all times. I mean, I always have a camera on me, so if something happens, I just so happen to turn it on every time I see a bureaucrat. If I was about to see a fist fight as well, I would probably turn it on because the cameras don't lie. It's accountability. It's a great tool. I think it's something everybody should take up, and I just try to lead by example and show people if you have a camera, you're safer. They can't get away with as much of this stuff. I mean, if they don't delete our footage, you're going to hear these guys. They don't understand their own law. When I asked them in the lobby, I said, look, over here, there is a sign that says no cell phones. This must have been a problem for you guys, so much so that you made its own little stand, its own little flyer, and then you put them up here. I don't see any that say no filming. So what's up? You know, and they're like, well, we're filming. And I'm like, who has control of those cameras? They do. So, you know what I mean? And you can point out the hypocrisy, and the double standard of which they think they're better than you. He one point said to me, "You have to trust us," and I said, "Well, I don't," and that's just how it is.
All right, so it's great to have you guys on, and we'll definitely be talking more about Liberty on Tour in August. So where can people go to find out more about this at copblock.org?
Yeah, this incident, the biggest post is copblock.org/Greenfield. That's the name of the town where it happened, and so that has kind of like a summary that Adam wrote, and then more like a longer, extensive overview that I wrote. We both kind of contributed, I guess, to both parts, and we also have, I guess, once you back out of that post, there's also a post we put up today about like the money that was raised, how much we had to spend, where we'd like to allocate it, if folks want it back. So we're just trying to be as transparent as possible.
Way more transparent than the government.
All right.
It's not going to be too hard to do.
All right, well, thanks a lot for being on, guys, and thanks for all you do for Liberty, and we'll definitely be talking to you again. Everyone go to copblock.org, and you can check out Pete Ayer and Adam. Is it Mueller or Miller, or how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Miller, like the beer.
Miller, okay.
Miller,
I knew you'd say
okay.
that.
But also, folks, in a couple weeks, we'll have libertyontour.com going, so they should check that out, too. And I think we'll be down by you guys, maybe even in studio for that in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Us, too.
All right,
All right,
see
y'all,
you.
keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys.
too, guys.
Thanks, Pete. See you.
Liberty!
Yeah. All right, peace.
All right, those are two awesome dudes, Pete Ayer and Adam Miller. And you can check them out, copblock.org, and they're going to have libertyontour.com coming soon. So they're talking about their experiences in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Not a great place in terms of the cops, apparently. A lot of bad apples fell in that barrel somehow. So we were talking before about the local economies, and we kind of got a little off track with the wackiness of this chat room. But I just wanted to bring up some of the other ideas that people had within the
Wacky
chat
chat
room
room.
about money. So I don't know if we can scroll up here like a half hour back. People were talking about different things to use for money. Of course, you have precious metals. They're always good. There we go. So there's labor notes. Some people prefer silver. You can use gold. Maybe there's some other precious metals out there. Maybe once we start mining those asteroids, we'll have lots of platinum. I don't know.
Platinum is good, too.
Platinum.
Yeah. There's a lot more platinum on the Earth than we probably need, but gold is going to be good for a long, long time.
Okay, so we have local exchange trading systems, LETS. You can look up those. Copper, paper, and zinc. Some people said bullets.
Oh, yeah, bullets was another pretty good idea, but they're harder to divide. So. And half a bullet isn't really useful. So.
Okay, and so basically any easily divisible and useful object. Some people like e-gold, and Bosco says, I like digital bearer bonds, but the government seems keen to shut them down. Also, it takes faith in the DBB system. You could use e-cash, for example. Anarcho Tom mentions that pre-1964 coins have silver. You could use those. Of course, Bosco has a whole list of items such as butane lighters that will be good for the apocalypse.
Oh, yes.
And wait, can you scroll down
Zombie
here?
apocalypse.
Okay. Anarcho Tom says motorcycles are really very well divisible. Not. So, there you go. Don't use motorcycles as money, but we got to build a local economy. We got to look at where we are in our lives and what we can do for liberty. Leverage all the tools out there. Learn from what others are doing. And don't be afraid to innovate. So we're going to close out here tonight. And I just want to say, go out there and be free. Thanks for listening to thinkingliberty.net.
I thought the show ended like 5 minutes ago.
を
What else can I do besides avenge you?
涙が枯れるまでずっと見つめていた溢れる悲しみは消せない傷跡に忘れはしないと誓った折れた翼を羽ばたかせ全てを消してみせよういつの日か終わりを迎える最後の鐘が鳴り鳴るまで
You told me to live as if you were to die tomorrow. Feel as if you were to be one now. Best as if we want to live forever.
震える指で赤い涙をなぞった
I have nothing to lose, nothing to lose.
儚い思い出が闇に落ちてゆく最後の微笑みが浮かんでは消えるぬくもりだけを残して優しいだけの言葉なら今の僕は癒せない果てしなく続く戦いにこの身を全て捧げるだけいつかはこの空に誰もが帰るから別れの言葉はいらない折れた翼を羽ばたかせ全てを消してみせよういつの日か終わりを迎える最後の鐘が鳴り鳴るまで優しいだけの言葉なら今の僕は癒せない果てしなく続く戦い